toasty in here, so just understand if I'm fanning myself. Thank you for joining us for another virtual news conference. As usual, I'm reminded of those who are working on the front lines of this pandemic, and I express our continuing appreciation for what they're doing and their service during these extraordinary times. On behalf of the City of Savannah, I send my condolences to the family, friends, and the Savannah Fire Department colleagues on the passing of Captain Matthew Kelly, who left us yesterday morning after being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer earlier this year. Originally from Sandwich, Massachusetts, Captain Kelly has served this community as a firefighter for 23 years. He is survived by his wife, son, and stepson. I also send our condolences to the family, friends, and Savannah sanitation colleagues of Miss Avalon Jenkins, who passed away last Friday. She was a native of Savannah, Georgia, and had faithfully served the City of Savannah for 11 years. And she's survived by her mother, 2 daughters, and 7 grandchildren. And we also want to send our condolences to our colleague, the Alderwoman from the 3rd District, Linda Wilder Bryan, who lost her sister this past week, Phyllis Wilder Lewis. And we express our sympathies to Linda and her entire family during this time. And we ask that you, as a caring, beloved Savannah community, extend your thoughts and prayers to these families that are suffering loss at this time. As you are aware, early Sunday morning we had a devastating fire at the building that houses our code compliance operations at 1700 Drayton Street. Thank God no one was injured. The cause of the fire is under investigation, and big shout outs to Engine 5 for leading the way. Governor Kemp's shelter-in-place order expired last week, and more people, including visitors, have been out enjoying our city. The weekend, in many ways, looked like a normal Savannah weekend. And what is very troubling to me is that things are still not normal here. Even though some restrictions have been lifted, I'm still asking that you practice good hygiene and social distancing when you go out, and absolutely if you must go out. Remember, we're under a public health state of emergency that expires on June the 12th. People at a high risk for getting the virus are asked to stay at home as much as possible until that emergency order expires. Anyone 65 years or older, those with chronic lung or kidney disease, moderate to severe asthma, severe heart disease, obesity, diabetes, or liver disease are asked still to stay home. Those who have a compromised immune system, who are undergoing dialysis, or live in a nursing home or long-term care facility, are also required to shelter in place. Gatherings of more than 10 people are not allowed unless there are at least 6 feet between each person. Bars, nightclubs, amusement park ride operators, live performance venues, and public swimming pools will be closed through May the 13th unless the governor extends these closures. And please be advised and warned in advance that the City of Savannah will not tolerate businesses that are acting outside of these requirements. We received some reports, and we want to make sure that you know very clearly, you have fair warning, that if you're operating outside of this order, you will be warned and you will be shut down. The Georgia Department of Public Health is still urging all of us to wear masks or cloth face coverings, especially in places where social distancing may be difficult. I am asking you to wear masks or cloth face coverings whenever you have to go out. Further, I want you to know that I support businesses that require them for entry. But covering your nose and your mouth does not replace social distancing. You should still try to keep at least 6 feet away from others, and you should avoid crowds and large gatherings. If you're eating at a restaurant, shopping at a local business, or enjoying a city park, please keep as much space between you and others as possible. We want you to support our local businesses during this time, but we want you to do it safely. Please be patient, as it takes us a while to service our entire city in terms of our one-time collection of yard waste. This process is still ongoing, and your neighborhood has not been forgotten. It's just a whole lot of trash out there. But we're coming around, we're moving around, and we will be to you shortly. If your yard waste was bagged at your normal collection point, it will be picked up if it has not been picked up already. Supreme Court Chief Justice Harold Melton announced yesterday that he will extend for another month the statewide judicial emergency, which was due to expire May the 13th. Under an order the Chief Justice plans to sign later this week, the emergency initially declared on March the 14th will be extended for a second time until Friday, June the 12th, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. That will no doubt have implications for our local judicial system. Chatham Area Transit will continue to run reduced service at a 50% capacity only for essential trips for the foreseeable future. As a part of the initiative that we'll call Resilient Savannah, that will focus on the after this of COVID-19, we have released and posted for the public an historic account, a document that compiles the extraordinary and Herculean efforts of Team Savannah since March the 2nd, 2020. And so this is available on the city's website. It's also available on our social media outlets. Today, we will also release a Resilient Savannah resource guide that will help our residents to readily locate various COVID-19 resources. I extend my thanks to the city manager and to the community and human services team for their expert assistance. This will be a very valuable resource for our citizens to be able to know where to go for what they need. In the coming days, as a part of our Resilient Savannah initiative, the city manager will brief the city council and release a detailed plan of where we go from here, based on the science and what is best for our employees and citizens. So to answer your question now, he is not ready to do that at this time, but he will when he gets prepared to do so. Your city council will meet on Thursday in a workshop session as we continue our work of conducting workshops on topics prioritized by the council. This week's workshop will focus on the City of Savannah's budget, and you are invited to join us at 3 o'clock p.m. This week, we celebrate both teachers and nurses, two professions that most of us appreciate now more than ever. I come from a family of teachers, and I want to extend my appreciation and gratitude to teachers who, without warning, had to find new ways, innovative ways, creative ways to educate their students during this pandemic. So happy Teachers Week to all of our teachers. Big ups to you. We appreciate all that you do. And I always want to continue to thank those students of the class of 2020 and below for doing what they have done to make sure that they made the best they could out of this situation. That they were able to make lemonade, sweet lemonade, out of lemons. Thank you for that. Congratulations to both of my alma maters, the Savannah State and Georgia Southern University classes of 2020, who are virtually celebrating commencements this weekend. Nurses have been on the front line of this fight since day one. We are so thankful for all of the healthcare workers who are doing everything they can to keep us safe and healthy. During this National Nurses Week, we again and particularly salute our nurses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My mother was a nurse. My aunt is a nurse. I love nurses. Thank you so much. As a reminder, please complete your census forms. We had a really good week last week, and we finally reached the 50% mark. It only takes a few minutes, but the results last for 10 years. Go to my2020census.gov, my2020census.gov. It only took me 4 minutes. For everybody in my household, my2020census.gov. You should have received in the mail an application for an absentee ballot for the June 9, 2020 primary election. We're encouraging you to complete and return this document to the Chatham County Voter Registration Office to ensure you have a ballot so your voice can be counted in the upcoming elections. The National Day of Prayer is observed annually on the first Thursday in May. This day of observance, designated by the United States Congress, asks people to turn to God in prayer and meditation. I'm sure that you will agree that if we ever needed to be united in prayer, now is the absolute time. So please join me and others around the world, not just Thursday, but every day in prayer. This Sunday, we celebrate mothers, grandmothers, godmothers, big mamas, mommies, aunties, and those with a mothering spirit. We also honor the memory of mothers that are no longer with us. We fully recognize that this time of the year is the happiest for some and is very, very difficult for others. So mothers, although we can't celebrate you like we usually do, we owe you one. And we will make it up to you. I promise. But we will do it when it's absolutely safe to do so. We promise. And hold your kids accountable too. Make it up to you. We owe you. So please don't act like things are completely back to normal, because things are not normal. Our numbers are still trending upward, and this is expected to continue as testing increases and reckless and careless behavior continues. We still need you to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect those you love. We will continue to pray for the best, but we will continue to prepare for the worst. And if that is not enough, please be reminded that hurricane season begins in 27 days. Pretty sobering, right? May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the city of Savannah. That is my prepared remarks, and we'll entertain any questions you may have. Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question for you is, I know the Resilient Savannah Plan is going to be released soon, but are there any other details that you can give us at this time about that?
Is rolling out. I'm pulling together folks to help provide some advice. And again, it's really driven by the data. We've resolved from the very, very beginning that we were going to follow the data. We were going to follow the science. And so our plans really are based on that. Right now we have some thoughts. I think city manager is considering some scenarios in which we could de-escalate some of our emergency procedures. But again, it's based on the science. So obviously everything for us is based on the science. We don't want to do what everybody else is doing. We don't want to do what's fashionable. We don't want to do what's expedient. We want to do what's safe and what's right. And so as that time goes out, as our exposure numbers become clearer, we know that this coming week provides a window for us. It'll be approaching 2 weeks since April 24th, and then 2 weeks from April 27th. 2 weeks from Mother's Day, for example. You just know from people being out, people being around, what that exposure really looks like. So again, I think our resiliency depends on our ability to follow the science right now. Thank you. Ms. Jones, good morning.
Just for clarification, when is that guide supposed to be available for the public?
Right now. It's available right now.
Oh, okay. And my last question for right now is the city manager in the room? I can't see him, but I have a
He's
question
hiding,
now.
but he's here.
I was just wondering about the progress for the homeless community here in Savannah as far as the camp goes and where the city's at with that.
So thank you. The land is cleared and we are preparing to move forward with the tents for the temporary structures. And as I mentioned before, our long-term goal is to use this area for a pilot project for a container village, to use shipping containers and convert those into anywhere between 160 and 200 square foot units for the homeless. But for now, the land is available, the site's been cleared, and I'm assuming that the tents will be available this week for any of the homeless who want to occupy it, just as an interim until the shelters can resume accepting full loads.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, good morning.
Good morning. You mentioned enforcement of the various restrictions and safety measures that businesses are supposed to be following.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about that? I mean, is somebody out checking whether businesses are following those rules, or is it a matter of people reporting violations? How is that working?
Both. Everybody is checking. Keep in mind, we have 1,400 employees. Everybody's checking. The goal is to be safe, and I've received reports and checked some out myself of places that were straight out bars, just kind of operating like everything was fine. The interesting thing is that social media also helps with that. When people go live from a place where they're just celebrating, I mean, that's evidence. And so it creates an opportunity for us to have some meaningful and courageous conversations with these owners. We don't want to shut people down, but we're not going to allow people to operate in a manner that's unsafe. And I want to make that absolutely clear, that we will have those conversations, and if we need to, we'll take action. Again, we're not going to let businesses here put our citizens at risk. Ms. American, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor. How are you?
I am well. I'm still here.
Yeah. I have a couple questions. Can you clarify, I know you had this in your prepared statement, but can you reiterate what is not supposed to be open at this time?
Sure. Let me look. I'll make sure. I know bars, amusement parks, nightclubs, entertainment, large-scale entertainment venues. Those are among the things that should not be open. And again, we're very, very clear about what that is. And the fact is, if a bar is open and operating, if a restaurant is acting like a bar, there are also license implications with the state of Georgia in terms of their licenses. So
Yeah, so I was downtown yesterday and I talked with a couple of smaller business owners who said that they had had people from New Jersey, Illinois, and North and South Carolina in over the weekend. How are you grappling with the idea that you want people to have business, but you're concerned about an influx of visitors?
Well, and that's been the most difficult part of all of this, Joanne. I'm not anti-business. The city is not anti-business. We realize small business is the crux of our existence. But we also realize that we have this awesome responsibility to be able to keep people safe. And so for us, it's been a matter of really balancing those interests. I met a couple that was from out of town over the weekend that indicated to me the reason why they came to Georgia is because Georgia was open. So they're coming from states where they could not go anywhere to places in Georgia that are open. And to me, that's the message that, we've essentially opened ourselves up to the world. And so again, people are coming from different places. We don't know what they're bringing with them. We know that there is a 2 to 14-day incubation period. Again, they might come here, they might leave, and again, we don't feel those effects until much, much later. So although we are glad that the businesses are here, it's so important for businesses to ensure that they're doing all they can to protect themselves. And to my comment earlier, there's a local business owner I spoke to over the weekend that asked me about, that he requires individuals to have face coverings coming into his store. And if they don't, they can't come in. And further, he's providing them the face coverings if they don't have them. And I told him I absolutely support that. Again, in the end, you have to keep your employees safe. In the end, you have to keep your customers safe. And although face coverings are not foolproof, we know they provide an added layer for protection.
They're not foolproof and they're not actually legally required, correct? This is a suggestion from the governor, correct?
And it's a suggestion from the mayor.
From the mayor, okay. Just one last question real quick. I'm assuming that resiliency group is going to talk also about financial resiliency coming up in terms of how all this is going to play out, correct?
Well, it's multifaceted. I mean, obviously, the city government team, Team Savannah, has always been focused on resiliency. What people like this don't realize is that we have people who are employed with us 365 days of the year, that their entire job is just to look at where we are and where we're going. So again, the city manager with his extensive experience and our budget and management team, they'll come up with those projections. Again, it's based on our numbers. Right now, we think we're okay through May 30th. That changes on June the 1st. And so his recommendations, I would suspect, will be based on what our situation looks like going in that time, which is why the science is so important. On the community side, again, we have to look at what after this means for us. I am convinced that we will not be back to normal ever again. There was, I remember September 11th, and I remember September 10th. September 10th was much different than September 12th. Our lives changed forever. And because of COVID, that we will start referencing our lives in terms of pre-COVID and post-COVID. It'll be a new normal, but it won't be like it was. It can't be. And so now we're talking about the city. How do we start gaining and maintaining adequate supplies of PPEs just because we might need them one day? And so those are the types of things that the city manager and their team will discuss. I don't get involved in that part of it. I just want to make sure that the council and I provide them what they need to make sure Savannah's prepared. And another is, again, I've been on calls throughout the week with mayors from across the country, and I will tell you, we are so phenomenally and unbelievably blessed here for so many reasons. Many of these cities are already laying off. Some of them are already furloughing. And thank God the City of Savannah has not had to furlough one employee. We've had not to lay off one employee. No employee has seen a break in pay. And in fact, many of our employees are receiving an increase in pay during this time. And again, that is because of good management and the fine work of employees who work every day to make sure that we are prepared for things that happen. Good morning, Ms. Katie.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I just have one quick question again about businesses. I think you said that you've been getting some calls about businesses who are open that aren't supposed to be open. Have there been any that have been shut down so far or been giving out warnings or anything like that?
I'm not sure. We have to research that. My goal, my rule is when I get the information, I pass it on. And we have a process by which those complaints are handled, and so I utilize that process. So I'm not sure yet, but again, I want to warn people very clearly before it starts happening that people don't think that the city is being big and bad. We want to make sure people have very fair warning and advance warning. They need to operate within the law, or they're going to have consequences to that.
Thanks.
Yes, Ms. Hamilton.
Mr. Mayor, back on that, when you had talked about that resource guide for citizens, and you said that it's already available. Is that available on your website? I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that.
It will be. It will be.
It will be.
Right.
Okay.
Members of council received it this morning. It'll be posted digitally on our social media platforms, and it'll be available on our website.
Okay,
again, this is a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful resource for us to be able to provide kind of a one-stop shop for resources related to COVID-19. So I'm just
It'll be
really
nice to have
happy.
everything in one place.
Yeah, it is. And it's separated by what the various needs are. The other thing I wanted to mention was, of the calls that I received the most right now still are from people who are having problems accessing the Georgia Department of Labor, the Georgia Department of Labor website, trying to get someone on the phone, trying to find out the status of their unemployment. And I'll say it again, the City of Savannah has nothing to do with that. However, we have reached out and will reach out again to Commissioner Butler in an attempt to be able to find some ways to expedite that process. We realize that they have been overwhelmed. We realize that there are other places than Savannah across the state, but I'm very concerned about Savannahans receiving their unemployment benefits as quickly as possible. I'm very concerned about them being able to access those resources, and I'm very concerned about our citizens receiving a call back or receiving some answers to their inquiries. It's been very frustrating for them, and so I've received people saying that, and again, our answer has been that we'll just continue to advocate. So I spoke with Senator Lester Jackson this morning, and we're going to again try to see if there's some way that we can be of help for folks here in Savannah. Anything else? Good morning, Sean. I knew you would come up.
Hiding here in my newscase, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
One quick question for me. The code enforcement building, I didn't know if Mr. Monahan could touch on what employees there are doing right now as far as their day-to-day. I know it's still very early on, but are they operating out of a different facility? Are they still able to do their jobs around the city? What's going on there?
So code enforcement is fully engaged in its duties within the responsibilities as an interim location. The city set up the Civic Center, the second floor of the Civic Center for the Revenue Department, as you recall, as an interim move several months ago. So code enforcement can initially move into the Civic Center, and then I think the long-term plan or the short-term plan will be for code enforcement to move to the Eastside Community Center, which became available with the opening of the Pennsylvania Avenue Resource Center. So the city has a short-term plan in place. The more long-term is a question whether code enforcement then becomes part of the Public Works Complex under construction on Interchange Court. That's a $40 million project. In addition to that, the city's looking at a municipal complex and could incorporate code enforcement to the municipal complex. The city's fortunate that that property is insured. We have outside independent firm that will pay for the fair market value of that building, less than $100,000 deductible. So as another option, the city could also shop and find a temporary or more permanent location for code enforcement. Number of options out there. We're still exploring all those and probably know within the next 3 to 4 months. But code enforcement is working, so so make sure that your yards and your property maintenance is properly cared for.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Evans.
I live in Pooler.
We have long arms.
We'll come out there too. Anything else? I see WJCL. Any questions? From somebody from JCL?
That's Emma's from JCL.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us again. We'll continue to do this as often as you're willing to come. We're committed to making sure that you know what we know, and we're making sure that we're being transparent, accountable, and inclusive, so that you can trust us. So thanks so much. God bless Savannah. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The script for.
Hey, Chris, do we need to bring anything with us when we come to pick up, like a hard drive or anything like that?